I know you just mentioned before, too, that, the Colts have opened up the door for this to be hitting the point of no return if Jonathan Taylor finds the team willing to pay him what he feels he's worth, and the Colts won't pull the trigger because they feel the compensation they're going to get back for Taylor isn't what Taylor is worth. And I'm like thinking that horse has already left the barn, because Taylor's like, all right, you won't pay me what I think I'm worth, but on the trade market, you'll value me what I think I'm worth. And, and I think
it's ugly.
I think it's there, though.
I mean, uglier, I guess. It's already ugly.
Right. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I think it is there, because he's like, pay me like the top talent. I am, and I know I am, and we know collectively I am. And now it's time for, after they say no, and they're like, go seek a trade, and then we hear what they're eager to get back for him. That is what you would value somebody that's paid a certain way, and they won't pay him that. And I think the fact that he's standing there too, and again, I understand, the Colts have their ways or standards or whatever, but you got a new coach and you got a new quarterback. Don't you think it is worth the money just for that alone? Like, all right, I understand you have the leverage and you don't have to pay him, and you do want to wait for the ultimate leverage of the franchise tag next year, and that's the way it's normally done. But it's rubber's meeting the road with your new coach and your new quarterback. Having Jonathan Taylor out there with his infectious personality rather than standing, that photograph you took today is so jarring. Don't you think like it's time to do that? And maybe, just maybe, the Colts will come to that reckoning in the next week, or that's it?
Yeah, and I think what's smart about doing a deal now, and that's just me, right? But, I understand teams don't want to pay for past performance, right? But the guy has definitely outperformed what you paid him. No question, right? No one would argue that. And, if you do a deal now rather than a year from now, you actually might be mitigating some of the risk, because you know how these deals work. It's the first 2 or 3 years, first 2 or a portion of the third, whatever it is, is guaranteed, then you can get out of it. Well, if you do a deal now, yes, you're paying him some money up front that you wouldn't have otherwise, but then you're also on the back end probably going to be out of the guarantees earlier. So if it is your intention to sign him long-term after this year, then, I think you're actually running more risk that age is going to catch up to him, and it's going to look like a bad deal 3 or 4 years down the line than if you did it now, because you have an ability to escape from the deal earlier. So I think to me, it's like, I look at like what the Browns did, right? And the Browns, to me, and I'm not saying the Browns are the model franchise, but I know I brought this up to you before, Rich, they're the most analytically driven franchise in the league, probably, right? Like what Andrew Barry and Kevin Stefanski do, Paul DePodesta, all that. So, they, on paper, would be the team that'd be least likely to pay a running back. You know what they did, though? They paid a running back. And why did they pay a running back? Because Nick Chubb was just that important to who they are, and was just that important to what they do, and was just that big a part of their identity. I think Jonathan Taylor is that guy for the Colts. So I look at it, and it's like, if there's an exception to be made, I think this is a guy who is worth making the exception for, even to the point where if he came back to me and he said, okay, the Dolphins are willing to give me a $14 million a year deal, but they're not going to meet your draft pick compensation. You know what I would say? I would say, well, maybe we'll do the deal that they offered you. You know what I mean? And then they've negotiated an extension for you. Again, I don't know if the Colts would even consider that based on how ugly this has gotten, but it would seem to be one way out of it, where you're keeping a very, very important player on your team. And, Shane Steichen in year one is showing that he's going to reward people who do things the right way, which is exactly how Taylor handled his first 3 years in the league and everything up until his contract dispute.
Catch the Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.